The Teutonic Order operated as a military state from 1226 to 1561. Its design was a crusader machine, imported knights for manpower, castles for territorial control, and forced taxation of conquered populations. The system produced expansion but no stability. Every gain required external recruits and constant war, creating a structure that collapsed once the supply of victories stopped. The critical failure point came in 1410 at the Battle of Grunwald, where Polish-Lithuanian forces eliminated the core army and killed thousands of knights. Military credibility evaporated. Castles turned into static liabilities, draining revenue instead of protecting land. By 1466, the order was reduced to a vassal state under Poland. In 1561, it was dissolved entirely. The Teutonic Order was not overthrown by rivals. It self-destructed as a military economy that could no longer generate survival. Samo's empire existed from 631 to 658 in what is now the Czech Republic. It was not a state in the traditional sense, but a confederation of Slavic tribes unified under one warlord. The system relied on his personal authority, polygamous alliances, and constant raiding of neighbors, particularly the Avars and the Franks. This structure produced short-term expansion but had no institutional framework. When Samo defeated the Frankish kingdom in battle, the empire looked formidable, yet it carried no mechanism for succession or administration. The flaw was exposed in 658 at his death. The alliance collapsed immediately, none of his sons succeeded him, and the confederation disintegrated. What appeared as a kingdom was in fact a temporary military coalition, terminated the moment its leader was gone. Samo's empire was never a state. It was a single point of failure disguised as a kingdom. The Papal States existed from 756 to 1870, functioning as a church-run monarchy in central Italy. They were created by the donation of Pepin, when the Frankish king handed captured Lombard land to the Pope. From the start, it was an anomaly, a religious institution acting as a territorial state, complete with armies, taxation, and wars. For centuries, the papacy maintained control by shifting alliances between France, the Holy Roman Empire, and local Italian powers. But structurally, the state fused two conflicting systems, spiritual authority and political rule, creating constant instability. The breaking point came in 1870 during the unification of Italy. The armies of Victor Emmanuel II captured Rome, stripping the papacy of almost all land except the Vatican. From then until the 20th century, popes referred to themselves as prisoners in the Vatican to protest their loss. The Papal States proved that a church could act like a kingdom, but also that a kingdom built on faith could not withstand modern nation-states. The Mauro-Roman Kingdom lasted from 477 to 599 in North Africa after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Its population was mostly Berber Christians, who maintained Roman-style governance while surrounded by hostile forces. The kingdom functioned as a survival remnant, defending against both Moorish tribes and Vandal expansion. Structurally, it was weak, cut off from Roman supply lines, dependent on local militias, and exposed to constant pressure from stronger powers. For over a century it held out, but without external support, its resources declined, and its ability to defend territory eroded. In 599, the kingdom collapsed completely, absorbed by advancing enemies. It did not fall in a single battle, but through gradual exhaustion. The Mauro-Roman Kingdom was less a successor state than a temporary Roman aftershock, extinguished once isolation consumed it. The Vandal Kingdom existed from 435 to 533, created when a Germanic tribe pushed into North Africa after raiding the Roman Empire. Joined by the defeated Alans, they captured Carthage and built a maritime kingdom that extended into Mediterranean islands. Their strength came from mobility and sea raids, including the sack of Rome in 455. But the system was fragile. The Vandals were a minority ruling a hostile population dependent on plunder rather than stable administration. When Emperor Justinian launched the Vandalic War in 533, the structure collapsed quickly. Byzantine armies crushed their defenses, and King Gilmer surrendered. The Vandal Kingdom ended in less than a century, erased by the same empire it had once humiliated. It was not a dynasty, but a pirate state burned out by its own instability. The Norse Empire lasted from 1013 to 1042, formed under Danish and Viking rulers who controlled England, Denmark, and Norway. King Sweyn Forkbeard conquered England in 1013, but died within a year, leaving the empire to his son, Cnut the Great. Under Cnut, the system functioned, tribute flowed in, armies were disciplined, and influence extended into Scotland and Ireland. But the empire was built around one strong ruler, not durable institutions. After Khanat's death in 1035, succession fractured. His son Harthacnut briefly restored control, but internal instability and poor leadership undermined authority. By 1042, the empire dissolved, replaced by native English rule under Edward the Confessor. The Norse Empire was not defeated militarily, it collapsed because its power relied entirely on the presence of a single king. The County of Sicily lasted from 1071 to 1130, created by Norman mercenaries who seized control of southern Italy and the islands of Sicily and Malta. The system was forged through military conquest, with the Hauteville family using fortresses, alliances with the papacy, and professional soldiers to dominate the region. It expanded rapidly, even challenging Byzantine holdings in the east. But the structure was transitional, built for conquest, not long-term stability. By 1130, the county was merged into the larger Kingdom of Sicily under Roger II, shifting power into a more centralized monarchy. Later, dynastic changes, including the replacement of the Hautevilles by the Hohenstaufen, ended the Norman hold entirely. The County of Sicily was not destroyed in battle but absorbed into a stronger framework. It existed only as a staging ground for the kingdom that replaced it. The Latin Empire lasted from 1204 to 1261, created after Crusaders captured Constantinople. Western rulers replaced Byzantine authority, but the system was flawed from the beginning. The empire relied on plunder and external aid, not sustainable administration. Chronic shortages of food, money, and manpower forced rulers to dismantle churches and buildings for materials. Territories were contested by rival Byzantine successor states, particularly the Empire of Nicaea, which maintained stronger governance in exile. By the mid-13th century, the Latin Empire was economically drained, militarily weak, and politically isolated. In 1261, Emperor Michael VIII retook Constantinople, ending the Latin occupation permanently. The Latin Empire was not an empire in practice. It was a dismantled capital city held together by desperation. The Republic of Ragusa lasted from 1358 to 1808 on the Dalmatian coast. It emerged as a maritime trading state after breaking away from Venetian control under the Treaty of Zadar. Its system was built on diplomacy, paying tribute to stronger powers such as Hungary, the Ottomans, and later the Habsburgs, while maintaining neutrality and trade networks. Ragusa outlawed slavery in 1416 and thrived as a commercial hub, but its survival depended on balancing stronger empires. The Republic was hit hard by the 1667 earthquake, which destroyed much of its infrastructure and population. Over time, the shift of global trade toward the Atlantic reduced its economic role, weakening the foundation of its prosperity. In 1805, Napoleonic forces defeated Ragusa, and by 1808 it was absorbed into the French Empire. Ragusa did not collapse in rebellion or war. It was erased once larger powers no longer needed its role as a buffer state. The Khazar Khaganate existed from 650 to 969, controlling parts of southern Ukraine, Crimea, and Kazakhstan. Its system was a nomadic elite ruling over a multi-faith population of Christians, Muslims, pagans, and Buddhists, with the ruling class converting to Judaism. The Khazars became a critical trading empire, linking Byzantium, the Islamic caliphates, and the steppe. Their wealth came from tariffs and strategic control of trade routes, not from territorial cohesion. But the state had a structural weakness. Its capital and leadership were fixed targets in an otherwise fluid steppe environment. By the 960s, alliances shifted against them. Sviatoslav of Kiev led campaigns that destroyed their capital at Atil in 969, ending Khazar control. The Khazar Khaganate was not dismantled gradually. It was terminated by a single strike against its urban core. The Kingdom of Brittany lasted from 851 to 939 in northwestern France. It was formed when Breton nobles rejected Frankish dominance and declared independence under King Erispo. The kingdom's structure was fragile from the start: fragmented territories, divided nobility, and constant threats from Vikings and Franks alike. By the late 9th century, internal civil wars split Brittany into 3 rival domains, further weakening its defenses. Viking raids escalated, and by 919 the Norse controlled large parts of the region. A final recovery came under Alan Twisted Beard, who expelled the Vikings with Frankish support by 935. But the independence of Brittany ended soon after, and it reverted to a ducal title under French control. The Kingdom of Brittany was not a sovereign state in the long run. It was a temporary resistance movement, erased once stronger neighbors reasserted power. These kingdoms exposed the flaws of medieval power. But myths were just as dangerous as states. If you want to see how, watch Every Medieval Myth Explained.